Left of the box. I would imagine most places I would visit, you don't need ID in order to enter the building. But that's, again, it's things that we don't think of up here because the amount of metal detectors or ID checking and stuff in order to get into certain buildings don't exist the same way up here. Like, if you go to Parliament Hill and you want to go and watch a session or something, yes, you have metal detectors, you have everything. You're not even allowed to take a pencil in with you. Like, it's because they don't want people protesting in the gallery. So you're
Yeah.
not allowed to take paper with you, pencil, nothing. Like, all of your possessions have to be left outside and you're supposed to sit there quietly, type thing.
Uh-huh.
And so tight security around that.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they had metal detectors at the OJ trial here.
Yeah. Or just like the amount of security, the amount of police presence, because I went to Ottawa actually for Canada's 150. I have a very complex relationship with this country. Because, like I said, I'm not proud to be a Canadian, but I am grateful for everything this country has been able to give me. But I still understand and recognize the horrors that it has done and continues to do, which I call it out for regularly.
Mhm.
But I still just kind of wanted to be there for that event. And going there and seeing the police with guns, like long guns and stuff like that, was wild. Like, yeah, they have guns here, but they had like the long guns type thing, like the big guns, noticeable guns. And it's like, whoa, this is weird feeling. Because we're so not used to it. And I remember watching these two police officers in the crowd, and it was so bizarre because like they were like laser focused looking out at the crowd, but then somebody would approach them and be like, hey, can I get a picture and stuff? And they'd be all of a sudden, like their whole demeanor, like, yeah, sure, come on and have a picture and stuff like that. And at one point you see this black woman in between these two white cops getting the picture done with the big guns beside them and everything looks like you're looking at this like, but then as soon as they turn around and leave, all of a sudden these cops snap back to it and it's like, it
That's
was like
funny.
so weird watching that.
That's funny. I remember going to LAX and seeing cops with the big like automatic whatevers and being like, and yeah, like the American cop is just like so aggressive demeanor and being like, that's scary. I'm gonna go that way. And and then I mean this is I'm rambling. We should stop. Um, but I remember when I was in Saudi Arabia and the cops there having their like automatic rifles and they're like not scary at all. They're just like smoking cigarettes, talking to each other. Like they don't want to use that thing. They probably
Mhm.
barely know how to use it. But these guys over here, like they can't wait to shoot somebody.
Yeah, like lots of problems with policing up here in Canada too, but it's still when contrasted to the United States, nowhere in the like we are the second worst out of the countries that are in similar economic scales and stuff. The OECD countries or something like
Yeah.
that. We're the second worst for police shootings.
Mm.
Uh, but you guys, you take the cake. Like it is by far. You're far worse. Like yes, we're second worst, but compared to you guys, it's still
I'm sure it's like way
yeah,
different.
it's nowhere comparable. But it's like
Yeah.
if you compare us to like the sixth worst police shooting country, then we look horrible. And it's the same type of problems. The vast majority of people shot or killed by the police, black, brown, and indigenous. Usually mental health crises.
Yeah, I remember reading about mental health crisis, like a police officer killed somebody having a mental health crisis in Canada. I forgot where it was, um, but it was just such a big difference than here
Mhm.
because it was such a big deal, and he's getting investigated, and there's
Mhm.
like a independent inquiry, and there's like all this stuff, and I'm like, here that guy's getting a like you're not even gonna get a
Mhm.
promotion. It's like, oh, what'd you do today? Oh, I had to shoot this guy. Okay, cool. Just fill out the paperwork. See you tomorrow. You
Mhm.
know, like
Yeah, there are investigations that happen. They do make the news, but the sad reality is we still have a lot of them.
yeah.
And like when I've Googled it before for a different story I was doing, like, oh yeah, there's this one story I wanted to cover. And so I Googled like police shootings for mental health. And all of a sudden I saw this story and this story and this story and this story. And it's like, ah, okay, okay. Because I could only imagine as somebody who has mental health issues and who can go nonverbal under certain stresses and stuff like that, if the police were to act aggressively towards me for whatever reason when I'm not like I have no reason why they would or anything of that sort, if I'm going through some sort of mental health crisis, to have that
Mhm.
extra level of threat thrown at me, there's a good chance I'm not walking away from that. Just given how I know how I would react.
Mhm.
Like, not violently towards anyone else, but the reality is a lot of the people with these mental health issues weren't acting violently towards anyone else, and they still wound up dead somehow. Like, they weren't necessarily shot by the police, but fall off the balcony or something of that sort,
Right.
or other ways that they were harmed in that situation. So, some areas they're trying to do a better job of, like, when it's a mental health crisis, the police aren't the ones to go and investigate, but that is a city by city
Mhm.
situation. Like, different cities will have different programs, and some cities don't have any programs for that. And that's where you see some of the worst police violence. Like,
Yeah.
especially looking at what's been happening in Alberta recently with all the unhoused people in their encampments and what the police have been doing to them is just horrendous. Horrendous. The amount of abuse that they inflict on the population. In
They're,
Toronto with unhoused people, it's yeah.
they're probably getting their cues from American police. They're probably like, oh, let's act like that.
Have you seen the Thin Blue Line solidarity badges?
They have Canadian ones?
Well, there's Canadian ones, yes,
Oh.
but there's also solidarity ones. So it's like half American flag, half Canadian flag with a thin blue
Oh,
line on it.
disgusting. Disgusting. I don't want to
Yeah,
see that.
yeah.
That's a shame.
And some police officers have been warned that they're not supposed to wear that when they're out on duty, but some don't listen and all that sort of stuff. And you've sometimes you see them when the police are doing these encampment things. And yeah, a lot of our police train together. Again, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
what people don't know about our countries and why we should be paying attention is a lot of our police forces train with American police forces. It's all the
Yeah.
same.
All you're going to learn is to be meaner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like, it's again just there's so many different contrasts even within this country on how the police act when they act, because yes, right now in Toronto there's the issue with how the police are treating unhoused people and all this sort of stuff, but I also remember seeing the footage from somebody went on a driving rampage, a mass killing in Toronto.
Yeah, I remember that. The incel guy.
Yeah, and you see the police take him down when he was
Mm,
like pretending to shoot at them, like pretending to pull something out of his pocket and shoot at them, and they still de escalated and arrested him.
wow. Okay.
So then you have incidences like that, but then you have an incident with another person with mental health issues who isn't a threat to anyone, who hasn't done any, wasn't just on a rampage, and yet they still wound up dead. Like, it really is. It's almost like a police officer to police officer basis here. But
Yeah.
the
Here
reality
too.
is it's the barrel is what's poisoning, spoiling the apples.
Yeah. No, here too, because like not every cop is going to be like some trigger happy, insane person, but they're they're not going to stop the other guys, but like not every cop. I've dealt with cops before, and they were just regular. They were like,
Mm,
you know, they weren't like turned up like that. But there's
mhm,
also the other ones, that are just looking to harass people and just
mhm,
can't wait to be aggressive. Like, and I do think that's the majority. And the reality is like the police are a gang.
mhm,
Like here, like they operate like a gang, and especially when it comes to big cities, like that's just another gang right there,
mhm.
and they're involved in all the crime.
Yeah, it is. like on the whole, when it comes to the institute in general, yes, I'm all for, defund, reinvent, all that sort of stuff. But there are so many contrasts even just within our own systems here that there's no consistency, which makes it very hard to trust anyone because
Right.
how do you know which cop is going to show up at your door if you call or if you get pulled
Right.
over? How do you know which cop you're dealing with?
Exactly.
And to have that type of stress. And then again, I get to say that because I have that privilege of being white, where I'm not generally going to have the same types of interactions as some people. Because not
Yeah.
only am I white, I also don't look poor.
Mm.
Because a lot of poor people, unhoused people, get harassed all the
Yeah.
time. Just seeing what cops do to the encampments and all that sort of stuff. But should I suddenly have a mental health crisis, that treatment might also be very different than what I would get if I was just walking down the street without any crisis at hand. It
Yeah.
is, yeah, because it's always like a few rotten apples spoil the barrel, but it's the barrel that's causing the apples to spoil in the first place.